You're doing a lot of podcasts recently. One that I would love to see you on is, I think Joe Rogan has to have you on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you do that?
Oh, sure I would.
I think Joe, like, besides us, Joe's
I think I'm doing it, actually.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So you are going to do Joe Rogan?
Yeah, I am.
Joe Rogan's the best in the game for sure. And I think, you know,
did Joe become so well known because of the UFC? And he does a great job with that, right? What was it that made Joe the best?
During COVID, you know, he was very outspoken on all the corruption going on during COVID. And I think that's personally when I started watching him a lot too. And just, he's an honest guy too, right?
He is.
So I think.
Good guy.
Good guy. And I think you guys together would just
And he's got a good voice. That's important.
Donald Trump, Joe Rogan, same room on a podcast? Bruh, what? Yeah, I never thought I'd see this happen. And I know Joe Rogan was previously very adamant about not having Donald Trump on there. And then I seen this clip that I'm about to show you where he said he was open to having him on the show. Which one is it? I don't know, but I don't care as long as, you know, it happens, simply because I do think Joe Rogan is somebody who's a pretty decent guy and pretty level-headed and very honest and open about his thought process and in terms of them evolving from one perspective to the next. And he's definitely come from, you know, more of the liberal side of things, and we see him now towards the middle. And I don't care what he say, he's a little more conservative than me. But anyhow, Donald Trump confirms that he's going on Joe Rogan's show, and Rogan had previously said that he would be open to having Trump on the show and already has a list of questions that he would ask.
So when you're having Trump on?
I don't know.
Okay, the look.
I don't know. Maybe.
Looks like you got something.
Maybe.
Okay, good. That's good. I think that's
look, at a certain point in time, it's just like, it would be interesting to hear his perspective on a lot of things. I would like to know, what is it like when you actually get into office? I would like to know things like, what is it like versus perception?
Yeah.
What is it actually like when you get in that building? Like, what are you greeted with? When do you know that people are fucking with you? When do you know that the intelligence agency is lying to you? Like, when you decided to fire Comey, what was the thought? How much did you know? Like, what's the machine like? What is the deep state really like? Really like? Because we have all these, you know, smoky room perceptions, like from the Bill Hicks joke, where they show you the Kennedy assassination from an angle you've never seen before. You know, what is the machine that runs this country? Because it's very clear that it's not as simple as elected representatives that are doing the will of the people. It's not.
I think that this would be a great combination, Joe Rogan and Donald Trump, because for me, I think Joe Rogan is a powerhouse for fair free speech. You can have a podcast with him and say whatever you want, and he'll be fair and objective with you. And I think that's why people really enjoy having Joe Rogan's perspective. Joe Rogan's podcast is already major and already syndicated like crazy major. Having Donald Trump on there only add more fire to that for sure. And we're only going to see Kamala Harris continue to replicate what Donald Trump is doing. But you ain't better replicate that one, dog. Not at all. You know what I mean? No, let's read a few comments. Not going to... wait, I don't know what this says. Not going on Rogan. Trump no longer needs the interview, but if he makes an error, it will be blown out of proportion. Trump has very little to gain and a lot to lose. Kamala campaign has lost momentum and imploding. Rogan just wants to hop on the winning team at the last minute for personal gain. Forget him. I don't think that's the case. Obviously, this is somebody whom don't like Joe Rogan, but Joe Rogan is a man, at least in my opinion, I've seen he's moved independently. He ain't really swayed by this or that, you know. Somebody, of course, we got Trump is criminal comments. Again, I do remember Rogan saying he wouldn't, so it is pretty refreshing to see how it evolved into what it is now. Now, Lisa Balmer from Fox News, she actually spoke on this incident. She said Trump should 100% go on the Joe Rogan podcast. I need to go to some speech classes, man, at this point, because I keep fumbling to play, and I ain't gonna be sitting here editing it out. Anyhow, let's just play it, review it, and do what we do.
Now to this.
Will it happen? Elon Musk is fueling rumors that podcast host Joe Rogan will interview former President Trump ahead of Election Day. Back in 2023, Rogan teased questions he would ask the former commander-in-chief.
It would be interesting to hear his perspective on a lot of things. I would like to know, what is it like when you actually get into office? I would like to know things like, what is it like versus perception?
Yeah.
What is it actually like when you get in that building? What is the machine that runs this country? Because it's very clear that it's not as simple as elected representatives that are doing the will of the people. It's not.
I would listen to that interview. Meanwhile, Vogue is gushing over Kamala in its October edition, even after a rough media blitz. The fashion magazine made the Democrat nominee their cover star and wrote in part, quote, "Only rarely are individuals summoned for acts of national rescue." But in July, Vice President Kamala Harris received one of those calls.
And of course, Vogue gonna be with it. Y'all know the whole brand in like the 70s was about women empowerment and stuff like that. So that whole brand is centered around this. This isn't surprising.
I mean, nothing says get Annie Leibovitz and let's try and save things. I will defer. Let me hold that up again. Here it is, Annie Leibovitz. And it just says the candidate for our times. And it's a great photo. It's a great cover. Melania Trump, I don't believe, ever ended up on Vogue. But let me start with you, Nicole. What do you make of this? Is this going to woo women?
Woo women? No, I don't think so. I will agree with you. Actually, I really like this picture. I thought it was a stunning photograph, and I think the cover looks nice. I think that the the verbiage is a little interesting there, that they said that she was called for a national rescue. Who is she rescuing us from? The Biden administration, which she is #2 a part of, who, and just recently, as of this week, has said, I wouldn't do anything different than Joe Biden has done. So we're calling upon her to rescue us from herself. And rarely do you actually call upon the person who caused the problem to fix the problem.
And I think that's what most Americans who just deal with sound bites don't realize, is she's actually campaigning on things that she's capable of fixing now. She's campaigning on fixing things that she's a part of causing. And people completely blur that line. They completely miss that. They think that she hasn't been in office for these last 4 years.
I don't know. It's a little confusing.
You raise a great point. And actually, there were basically 4 specific soft interviews that Harris did this week. And we have a montage of the flubs, if you will, in her media blitz. Take a listen.
Madam Vice President Alex, welcome to Call Her Daddy.
It is good to be with you.
The last time I had beer was at a baseball game with Doug.
Okay, cheers. There you go.
Would you have done something differently than President Biden during the past 4 years?
There is not a thing that comes to mind.
If he wins, God forbid, would you feel safe in this country? Would you stay in this country?
Howard, I'm doing everything I can to make sure he does not win.
Now, the New York Times basically praised her being artful. They said this week, Ms. Harris put her own stamp on the art of the dodge. A trained prosecutor, Ms. Harris is lawyerly, argumentative, and fundamentally defensive. She often...
Oh my gosh, y'all see these words? Art and joyous and imagination. This is all the Harris campaign is fueled on. It's just imagine the idea of what could be unburdened by what.
And deflects or sidesteps, she can speak passionately about her values in a way that leaves the listeners feeling as if the question had been acknowledged, even if the substance remained unaddressed. Lisa?
Well, I think first and foremost, Donald Trump should 100% do Joe Rogan. He has something like 14.5 million followers who follow his podcast on Spotify. And I think the Trump campaign's been really smart about utilizing alternative means for earned media with these podcasters, as well as that interview he did on X, because it allows Americans to see Donald Trump for who he is. And he's actually a super likable guy, despite how the media tries to portray him. But regarding Kamala Harris, I mean, she's in such a troubling spot because if she doesn't do interviews, she looks weak. If she does them, voters are reminded that they don't like her. And it reminds me of the movie Mean Girls. And it's like, stop trying to make fetch happen. Like they keep trying to convince Americans that somehow she's relatable, that she's likable, but she's just not. And the numbers before her accidental nomination demonstrate that. I mean, she spent $40 million in 2019 to come in at 3% in December of 2019. At one point last year, NBC had her polling the least amount of any vice president in that poll's history. You look at even her own staff, they hate her. 90% of her staff turned over while she's been the vice president in just a 3-year period of time. So stop trying to make fetch happen. People do not like Kamala Harris. The more they put her out, the more people are going to be reminded of that.
Well, hold on. And it goes beyond likability. Let's also remember, under the Biden administration, which again, Kamala Harris, #2, and she says that she's always been in the room with the decisions, 8 to 10 million illegal immigrants across the border, the highest inflation in over like 40 years. I mean, it's a policy thing, too. People do not want these policies. No one wants another 4 years of it.
But Griff, you listened to her. So she said, the last time I had a beer was with my husband, Doug, right? I think she was drinking wine in the green room before the interview. She sounds like she's loaded when she comes out on stage. That doesn't give anybody really any confidence. And I think on the day that picture was taken.
This is the reason why, I'm sorry, I know I cut him off, but this is the reason why we are requesting, we the people, the American people are requesting, in addition to the IQ test, in addition to her whole little medical analysis, we really want a drug test, okay? We want a drug test because you coming out here with this medical analysis, your medical results and going, oh, Trump is not trying to be transparent and this, that, and the third. You ain't being transparent. You know what I mean? We need to see what substances was in your system.
Any confidence. And I think on the day that picture was taken on Vogue, I think that was the very same day that she was in a fight with Ron DeSantis over Ron not taking a phone call. So Ron's dealing with a storm hitting his state, the second one in a week's time, and she's taking a Vogue cover photo and fighting with the governor.
It was also October 7th, a year after the massacre.
Yeah, that's a good point. And by the way, you know, when the New York Times is saying she's great, artful at the dodge, it's been more than 80 days since she's decided not to hold a press conference with reporters and journalists to just ask about the news of the day and the issues. So perhaps they should wait until that happens. I do want to play for...
There's nothing brilliant about a dodge. People want to hear, people are suffering. They want to hear policies to say, what do you think, Kamala? How are you going to fix this problem? I want to compare that to Donald Trump's ideas on how to fix the problem. And I want to compare the two. You dodge, you get nothing from him. By the way, just quickly on Joe Rogan, I don't know how many undecided voters are out there. I don't really know that many of them. I think what they're really doing with the Rogan interview is trying to energize the base of your party to show up and vote. This is a get your voters out to the polls. That's who's going to win.
Democrats always have that over Republicans.
Yeah, I want to get this in here, Sean, and you know James Carville, the guy that wrote the book on It's the Economy Stupid during the Clinton years. He's worried about where the race stands right now. Listen to this.
Only thing I feel is the election's coming November 5th. And I'm scared to death. They need to be sharp. They need to be aggressive. They need to stop answering questions and start asking questions. They're doing all this and sitting down with 60 Minutes and sitting down.
Hey, we got the same glasses on.
Bear and sitting down.
No. That's a little different than mine.
What? If I come on your show, you're going to ask me the questions.
That's true.
If I have a press conference, I get to ask the questions.
You'd like to see her do more press conferences?
I'd like her to put more things in place.
Yeah, he didn't want to answer that directly, but Lisa, you were giving me a reaction here while that was playing, so I got to go to you.
Well, the challenge for Kamala Harris is she's a manufactured candidate. You know, as I pointed out, people have rejected her time after time. She was an accidental nominee, and so the media can only prop her up so much. Now that Americans are starting to see her, you know, they don't like her. They reject her. And the challenge for her is she's simultaneously trying to paint the picture I'm a forward-leaning candidate. You know, this is a new page, a new start, yada, 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 while also saying I wouldn't change anything about what Joe Biden has done, what we've done with the Biden administration, despite the fact that those policies have been rejected, despite the fact that the majority of Americans believe we're heading in the wrong direction. So she's trying to speak out of, both sides of her mouth all over the place. So it's an incoherent message for an incoherent woman who's just totally unserious at a very serious time.
At this point, Joe Rogan, the ball is in your court, man. I remember you saying you wouldn't have them. Now you're saying you have questions for him and things of that nature. You got Elon Musk in the middle of all this tweeting saying, hey, it's going to happen. So, you probably doing something behind the scenes to try to make that happen. Yeah, Rogan, step it up, man. Interview Trump. These some serious times, dog. We need that. These Democrat losers, how do you think how do you think they're going to win? If you and Joe Rogan get in the room, Trump, you know what I'm saying? Trump and Joe Rogan, bro, I'm telling you, it'll flip them Democrat quick. I'm just playing. That shouldn't be the only reason why. Let's read a few comments. Joe Rogan hates Trump and won't have him on the show. I think you forgot to do your due diligence. I know we didn't. We've all noted this, and we're quite surprised by Joe Rogan's response as well. Someone said the same media who constantly denies Biden decline are the same ones constantly parading Kamala's black heritage and denial of the border crisis. Trump 2024 should be called Sugar Daddy. Somebody says Kamala Harris on the cover of Vogue would make a great dartboard.